Hey, Harvest Homes, hope you guys are doing great. I wanted to just share with you, in case you missed this past week's service, that you guys have given over $10,000 to our launch fund. Thank you so much for doing that match offer. We have another $10,000 coming for Converge, or from Converge, and it will help us pay for all the expenses that we've had for launching. And at the same time, I have a really bit of exciting news that last week, I got a text message from someone who said, "Hey, I've got a gift for you." They brought it by, and it was another $10,000 check from a person in our community. They're not going to come to Harvest, but they heard about what we were doing and they wanted to support. So what was 10,000 turned into 20,000, and now has turned into 30,000. And so thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you so much for being generous and giving throughout this entire process. And so we're just really thankful for that. And I just wanted to share that. It's awesome news and really excited. When I was teaching 8th grade, my first day, I had 2nd period, 3rd period, 4th period, 5th period, 6th period, and 7th period. And my day was going great. The first two classes, first 4 periods went fantastic. Kids were great. But the moment that kids started pouring through the door of that last class of the day, I could tell it's a completely different group. And it was. For about 2.5 months, this class challenged me. They didn't want to be there. They didn't see education as a value. And they were just really, really difficult. And there was one kid named Miguel. Miguel was going to be a rapper. He loved Snoop Dogg. And he would rap out loud right in the middle as I was teaching. He would throw things, and the other class would feed off of Miguel. And so they would throw things in the class. They would make jokes. They would talk during lessons. They would be disrespectful, just like Miguel was. About 2.5 months into school, all of a sudden one day, people were doing that in the class, and Miguel just said, "Hey, stop." And everybody stopped. And he said, "Mr. Sarles is pretty cool. We're not going to do that in here." And from that point forward, it was a challenging class. It was a difficult class. We had to work really, really hard. But we didn't have anybody throwing anything, making fun of anything. And we actually had a phenomenal rest of the school year. It only took one student to change the whole dynamic of that class. And God works through one. He channels one. He births a dream in one. He gives a vision to one. It's Abraham, it's Moses, it's Noah, it's Joshua, it's David, it's Paul. He works through one. He always works through one. One person can make a difference. And if you and I were to think about our life, we could probably think of one person that made a difference. That one person who sat with us as we cried when we lost a loved one. That one person that encouraged us when we were down and out and we didn't have much hope for the future. That one person that poured into us and saw something in us that nobody else really saw. That one person that we saw from afar that really motivated us and had great character, and we said, "I want to be like that person." There's always been one person. All of us are making a difference. All of us, whether it's good or whether it's bad, all of us leave a footprint on the earth. And the question isn't, am I making a difference? The question is, what difference am I making? What is the difference that I'm making? What is the difference? When I look at my life, no matter how old I am, whether I'm 14 years old, whether I'm 67 years old, or anywhere in between, what kind of difference am I making? If I were to take a look back in my past, if I were to take a look in my present, am I making a great difference? Like, what type of difference am I making? Today, we're going to read a story of one man that made a difference, and it's found in Genesis 6, starting in verse 11, and this is what Scripture says. "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt from all flesh. It had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all flesh. For the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and out with pitch. Slide down to verse 17. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh in which is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die. In verse 22, Noah did this. He did all that God had commanded him. Noah made a difference. He was willing to stand alone. He made a major difference. There's a Jewish word called mitzvah. At its basic form, it means command. Mitzvah means it is a command. But it is comes from or is kind of a partner with an Aramaic word called zavtah. Zavtah. And what zavtah means is it means to attach or join. It's a companionship. It's a personal attachment. And so what we see here is that God looked upon the earth and he saw someone whose heart was fully his, like 2 Chronicles says, and he formed a mitzvah with Noah, which means this, is that mitzvah bundles up the person who is commanded with the commander in a bond, in a relationship. Meaning when we do what the Creator wants done, we are bound up with him in his work. And so what we see form here is a mitzvah. Noah was willing to build a boat when there had never been rain. Noah was willing to build a boat when he wasn't living near water. He was willing to stand alone, and he was willing to obey God to the fullest of his capability. There's a book by John Maxwell called Running with the Giants. It's a great book, encouraging book. And in it, John Maxwell ponders, if you were to run one lap with a hero of the faith, what would that one person say to you? What would that one person say to you? And in the book, he says that if we were running a lap with Noah, or if Noah was sitting here talking to you like I am talking to you, I believe that Noah, and John Maxwell believes that Noah would say this, one person can make a difference. He would say that one person can make a difference. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your gifting. It doesn't matter what you've done, how much money you've got, whatever. One person can make a difference. You can make a difference. And I believe Noah would say some other things to us as well. The first one is this. Noah would say, don't be afraid to stand out in a crowd. Don't be afraid to stand out in a crowd. Difference makers are different. If you think about people who have made a difference, Dr. Martin Luther King, Ruby Bridges, Abraham Lincoln, Steve Jobs, just think of them. They have not been afraid to stand out in the crowd. They think differently. They look at things differently. When other people see a challenge, they see an opportunity. When other people think that it's not quite time to do something yet, they say, no, it is exactly the right time to do that. Difference makers make a difference. Difference makers they are willing to stand out in a crowd. They are willing to stand there all by themselves and hear this situation and this person say this or this person question this and say, yeah, but I'm going to make a difference because I'm seeing something that you're not seeing. I'm called to something that you're not called to. Difference makers make a difference. They're not afraid to stand out in the crowd. And you and I, if we were to think about the people that we revere, the people that we love, the people in history that we admire, they're all people who weren't afraid to stand out in the crowd. For me, it's Winston Churchill. Love Winston Churchill. There's a biography called The Last Lion. And I love reading about Winston Churchill and how people were saying, oh, you need to give in, you need to give in. London, the largest city in the world at that time, was being bombed. 57% of it was bombed. And he would walk through the streets talking to the people and feeding birds. And people would say, oh, you need to give in and you need to give in. We can't do that. And he'd say, no, we must never surrender. He was willing to stand out in a crowd and stand alone. And so was Noah. I could imagine that Noah was standing all by himself and saying, hey, I'm about to build a boat. And people were saying, what in the world is a boat? Noah would say, but one person can make a difference. If you're willing to stand out in a crowd, you can make a difference. But he would say something else too. He'd say, don't be afraid to do something for the first time. Can you imagine people without a concept of rain, without a concept of a boat? A boat had never been built before. And now he's building this huge ark because it's going to rain, and people saying, what is that? And what are you building? And we've never seen that before. There's a lot of people that will say, well, that's never been done before. And oftentimes we'll see or hear, that's never been done before, and it will deter us from doing the thing that we're called to do. I want us to look at it it's never been done before as an invitation, not as a wall. When somebody says it's never been done before, say, okay, it's an invitation to do it. It's an invitation to pray about doing it. It's an invitation to say, do I have a mitzvah here with God? And has God given me permission to step forward? Because here's the thing, what you're called to may not be what everybody else is called to. What I'm called to may not be what everybody else is called to. And what God is asking me to do, you may not understand, other people may not understand, but that's okay because we're not all called to the same. God doesn't call us to the same things. Sometimes God will lead you to do something that other people don't understand. God's willing to be misunderstood. I mean, think about it. He burned a bush that didn't get consumed to get the attention of Moses, who couldn't talk, to lead a people out of Israel after he told the king, hey, I'm taking my people. He's willing to be misunderstood. He led Noah to build an ark for rain when it had never rained before, and an ark had never been built. God's willing to be misunderstood. He told Joshua and his people to walk around playing some instruments, and a wall is going to fall down. God's willing to be misunderstood. He sent his son through a virgin. He called an oppressor in Paul to be the writer of the New Testament. God is willing to be misunderstood. He's not afraid to do something for the first time, and neither was Noah. Somebody somewhere has to take the first step. Somebody somewhere has to say, I'm willing to do something for the first time. When we moved to the mountains in 2015, there wasn't a church in the area doing online church. That's hard to comprehend now. But there wasn't a church there. And I said to our elders, I said to our church, I said, hey, this is early 2016. We need to begin to broadcasting our services online on Facebook. And they're like, why would we do that? People aren't going to come to church and all that. And I'm like, guys, it's 2016. Come on, I don't really know. It's 2016. Everybody we want to reach is online. Let's do it. And so we started with a small iPad in the corner of the room, and we had about 35 views for a while. It was horrible quality. It was off to the side. You could barely hear anybody, but we started, and then all of a sudden our views started climbing, so we invested in a stand that we could put the iPad on in the other side of the room, a little bit more in front, but you could still barely see anybody or really hear. The audio quality was terrible. And so finally somebody came and said, y'all need to really improve this, and you guys need to get a better camera. And I said, well, when you write a check, we'll get a better camera. And the guy wrote a check, and we got a better camera, and we began to invest deeply in our online format. And the views kept growing, and the views kept growing, and the views kept growing. And all along the way, the elders were like, I don't understand why we're spending money. I don't understand why we're investing in this. People in the church were saying, I don't understand why we're investing in this, and I don't understand why we're doing this. People aren't going to come to church. Online's just an afterthought, blah, 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 blah. And one day, a lady who was like that got snowed in at the top of the mountain, and guess what she did? She went to her computer. She put on Facebook, and she watched our service. And that week, she came and told me, man, it was awesome that I didn't have to miss because we had online. I was like, And then 2020 hit, and everybody had to go online, and the elders said, hey, I'm really glad. I didn't understand it, but I'm really glad you moved us to online because we didn't miss a beat. While all the other churches were trying to figure out how to do it, we had been doing it for 4 years, and so literally when we had to shut down the church, we knew exactly what to do. We had the equipment to do it. Here's the deal. You can't be afraid to do something for the first time. Just because somebody says it's never been done before, great. It's an invitation to do it. You know why? Because Noah would say, one person can make a difference. He would also tell us this, though, when you put God first, it will affect the people around you. The greatest contribution in your life may never be something that you accomplish. It may never be something that you do, but it might be someone that you raise, and it might be somebody that you invest in. We influence people not by our words, but by our actions. And we do it with our priorities. I want to talk to parents, because I know we got some youth groups and we got young kids and parents and all that stuff. I just want to say this. We have given our kids a better life, but we've also, in doing that, robbed them of their purpose. We've given them vacations, youth sports. We've shown them that making money is a priority. And yet, we have a whole generation of people that are getting raised up and saying, I don't know my purpose. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I exist, because I did what mom and dad did. I went and I got the vacations. I made as much money as I possibly could. I got involved in all these kind of sports, but I'm still void in my heart. I don't know what my purpose is. And we can put things all over our Facebook pages, and we can put things in our house with scripture, and we can tell our kids God is a priority, God is a priority. But what happens when youth league sports hits with a church event? What happens when all of a sudden my work schedule influences whether I serve or not? Our kids catch what we make a priority, not what we tell them is a priority. When we put God first, it will affect the people around you, because they will see that God is a priority. And that doesn't mean that you have to be hyper like church all of the time. There's some folks that just need to take a break. I'm just going to be honest with you. But that's okay. But what it does mean is that you have to show your kids a priority, that serving Jesus is important. 75% of our kids that grow up in a church no longer go to church when they get to college. 25% that do, they had a few things in common. One, they ate with their parents, and as a family, they ate dinner with the family the majority of the time. Two, they, along with their family, served in the local church. Three, they were given a responsibility in the church that they could do. Four, they had an experience with Jesus outside of a Sunday morning. And five, they had a spiritual mentor outside of their parent and their pastor that they could go to. Those five characteristics determined how the 25% stayed connected to the church after high school and into college. When we put God first, it will affect the people around you. Jesus says to take up your cross and follow him. It's because that every single day we have to put ourselves on the cross and crucify ourselves to follow Jesus. It costs to follow him. We have to put our priorities on the cross. We have to put our finances and our job on the cross and say, I'm going to follow Jesus, so therefore I have to put all my stuff on the cross and be willing to die to it so that I can follow Jesus. Guys, but when we put Jesus first, we will influence others. Here's the thing. We today, because Noah put God first, we don't ever have to worry about a flood on the earth again. We've been given a promise from God that he'll never flood the earth again. Don't you think that making a stand affected the people around him? And it impacts us today. One person can make a difference. You can make a difference. You can make a difference by leading your family with integrity. Noah led with integrity, and Genesis 7:1 said that when Noah entered the ark, his whole family went into the ark with him. You can make a difference for future generations. There was an 80-year-old man planting an apple orchard, and a young boy was watching him. And the old man in his 80s was taking great care of how he was planting the apple orchard. And the boy, looking at this for a while, said, "Sir, are you thinking that you're going to eat any of these apples from the tree?" And the man said, "No, but somebody will. What you do today will impact future generations. And what you don't do today will also impact future generations." You can make a difference for God. Too oftentimes we forget our importance to God and how he wants to use us, and that he gifted us and that he birthed us for a purpose. And all we have to do is follow him. I love 2 Chronicles 16:9. I referenced it earlier. It says this, "For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those who are most gifted? No. Of those who have the most money? No. Of those who have an education? No. Of whose heart is loyal to him." And you can make a difference no matter your age. Since we planted Harvest, I've seen 67 and 70-year-old people going and serving, and I've seen 14-year-olds serving. I've seen 11-year-olds serving. It doesn't matter your age, but you can make a difference. One person can make a difference. I spent about 8 or 9 months with Alan and Julie Topper, and we're going to ordain him October the 2nd. And one of the things about Alan is that he has led his family for about 15 years to move toward a calling to go to Honduras. And he and his wife, he led his wife to show up every single Tuesday for an hour and a half so I could teach them how to make disciples and how to make disciple makers. He's not well educated. He's not going to stand in front of a camera and captivate you. He's not going to blow you away with theology. He's not going to do all that. And as a matter of fact, he'd say, "I'm from the south side of the kingdom." But he's gone to Honduras, and they've launched 9 groups and had 45 people saved. And we're going to prioritize people who are doing the work of ministry instead of people who talk about doing the work of ministry. Why? One person can make a difference. Those 45 people that are going to be in eternity with Jesus, they're thankful for an Alan Topper who led his family. Guys, one person can make a difference. And there was one person who made a difference for us. Jesus is the way, he is the truth, and he is the life. And it is only through him by which someone can be with Jesus forever. It's not how much good you do. It's not how much you know. But it is exactly what you believe and who you believe Jesus is. He is the one person. Your Harvest Home leader would love to talk to you about what it means to follow Jesus and to be saved. I just want you to remember this. One person can make a difference. Be willing to stand out in the crowd. Be willing to try something for the first time. And be willing to put God first and allow him to determine your priorities. And I believe when you do, you're going to be like Noah. And when you get to heaven one day, you're going to share stories with Noah and say, "Hey, I remember that one time you made a difference. Let me tell you about the time I made a difference." Because one person can make a difference. We'll see you soon.